What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be checking out a bit of a weirdie as far as video games go. This is a little old title that's sitting on Steam right now with less than 10 reviews, but I played around with it for a couple of hours, and I think if you can get over the fact that this game tries to be weird just for the sake of being weird, not necessarily because it makes the UI or the control scheme better, there is a good game here once you come to terms with the fact that the controls are definitely an acquired taste. I don't even know if I would describe them as an acquired taste, but either way, this game's called Catharage, and it's out now for about $10 on Steam. In this game, it is a roguelike with extraction elements to it, where you are the last battlecruiser of a space civilization that's being repeatedly sent out with a letter of marque to eliminate as many enemies as possible, salvage as much gear as possible, and then warp back to town in order to unlock upgrades, do it all again. It's got sort of a strange esoteric progression mechanic when it comes to the way that you unlock new progress. It's a game that's unapologetically weird. Like, when I say that there's nothing else out there quite like this game, it's really, really true. This game is sort of like a cross-section between something like Nebulous, EVE Online, a fair dollop of Diablo in there as well. And so today we're going to play the game for about 30 minutes. We're going to see if it's something you wanted to add to your wish list, or if it's one of those games you'd rather not play for yourself. That's also perfectly fine. You can also find a bunch of other Nerd Castle links down there, which are especially ready to be clicked right now, positively brimming at the possibility of being clicked. But let's go ahead and dive on into the game before we waste any more time on the jibber jabber. Here at the beginning of the game, it's going to tell you your objectives. Now, these are campaign wide. You're not expected to do all of these in one run. These are things that you should just be mindful of while you're out on the map. When you accomplish these things, you will be given a space rune, and different combinations of space runes will come together to unlock new upgrades, new ships, new progression, new stuff that you can do, thus making your life a little bit easier and giving you alternate ways to play the game that you may prefer over the other ways that are already on offer. For right now, we start the game out, we've got, I think, like 3 ships available at the moment, so you can get the Corvette, you can get the frigate. Oh no, that's not unlocked right now. So you can take the frigate or you can take the cruiser. The cruiser, it hits a lot harder than the frigate, but it is slow. Your chance of dodging things like torpedoes or missiles inside the cruiser, I'm just going to flatly shake my head right now. This ship relies on tanking, whereas this ship relies on just not getting hit in the first place as much as it possibly can. And so I'll probably go, the cruiser's more interesting gameplay and it's a cooler looking ship, but I'll go with the frigate since that's what you guys are going to start out with on your run. So with our frigate, I've already got all my upgrades unlocked and I've already done all the things that I was planning on doing. You can get like lances that can come with you to help you out on your run. I can afford them right now, but I don't know if I want them to come with me. And so we'll just embark. And then we've got to pick a guaranteed weapon for our first slot. I'll take a cannon for my first slot. On top of that, your ship has hard points, things like armor, engines, sensors, shields. We start out with none of those at the beginning of the game, but you can pay with credits from your last run in order to start out with a random selection of this stuff. And so I'll get armor, I'll get shields, and I'll get sensors. Why not? And here at the beginning of the game, you can see that we're floating outside the last fortress. This is our little frigate right here. The gold side is the top side. You're going to want to remember that because if you end up with your ship upside down on accident, all your controls are going to be reversed, and you're going to sit there for 15 minutes like an asshole like I did, being like, why did the controls all reverse on me? You need to pay attention to the fact that your camera is anchored to the back of your craft. There are other camera modes that allow you to like unanchor it and just independently fly, but the control scheme is going to be the big thing that people trip over with this game because it's not exactly tactile. It is logical though, like it's a highly logical control system that goes against most game design principles, if you understand what I'm saying. And so you're going to have to get used to it at some point. And once you do get used to it, the game gets a lot smoother. For right now, there's nothing that we can do inside the last fortress aside from just study the beautiful golden hull of our craft. So let's head on out and see if we can get ourselves into some danger. There's going to be a bunch of linked nodes that we can go to from here. We can fight against the Hematics, we can go to a friendly place, we can go against the Sentinels, we can go against the Verdants. They've all got different styles and different ways that they fight. I'm not acclimated with them enough to feel confident about picking based on any kind of logic or any kind of metagame knowledge, so we'll just go with the Hematics because I've fought them before, and then we're going to land inside the Hematic system, and every single level in this game is a giant open system where you can do whatever you want. You're a pirate. Like, you're essentially a space privateer. Do whatever the hell you want, and just sort of cruise around and pick and choose what you want to accomplish. How close are those ships? So this is the overview map right here. You press the space bar to get to it. It looks like there's a bunch of loot over there. I'm going to go modern control. I'm going to turn on my thrust right now because it looks like those ships are hunting me at the moment, and so I'm going to use my superior evasion to get away from their sensor bubbles, because I think that's what that red is right there after playing the game for a while. It seems like the second you cross it, they become very, very aware of you. But there's a bunch of stuff we can pick up over here. Gear in this game does have different quality levels, and so sometimes the best course of action in this game is just to cruise around and pick stuff up. Now, what is weird about the control scheme in this game? Well, first and foremost, the game has two completely different control schemes, straight out of the rip, and you can alternate between them freely at the press of a button. So you've got advanced mode and you've got modern control. Modern control, you click and your ship is going to follow that vector set between your mouse and your ship, and it's just going to fly in a straight line. And then advanced control is basically manual piloting, where you control the ship, you rotate the ship, you control the yaw and everything else. I use both. I think that playing this game with one control scheme is a really bad idea. I think you should control the ship with both. So what I tend to do is I tend to set my vector using the modern mode, and then once I actually have my vector set, I control my ship manually with advanced mode when I'm like in combat or when I'm trying to line up an object like this one right here. And so I'm going to see if I can pick it up real fast. What is it? So I have bulk armor right, and it's Mark III bulk armor, so it's actually a pretty decent set of armor. This right here is sentry armor. It's going to lower the speed of our ship, it's going to lower our signature, it's going to increase our sensor strength, and it's got an ability called Sentry, which allows us to spawn a turret with a copy of one of our weapons for 45 seconds. The downside is we're going to lose a lot of armor if we equip this, but we do get that supplementary ability, which might let us put more rounds on target. I'm just going to scrap it for right now. Scrapping in this game, very important. You're going to want to be salvaging and scrapping as much as you can, just due to the fact that, oh my god, there's so much loot over here. Let me go through it all real fast. But you're going to want to be scrapping stuff because there's two metagame currencies that really matter. There's scrap and there's credits. Credits are used to buy stuff, and then scrap is kind of a multi-purpose resource that's used for unlocking metagame upgrades, but also it's the only way that you can repair your ship mid-run, like that right there. And since we started out with our armor pretty beat to hell, it's a good idea to repair that right now because armor in this game is actually quite powerful. So armor in this game is a flat damage reduction. If the enemy has no way to exceed your armor class, which right now is 19, they have no way to shred that, they have no way to get through that, then they can't deal damage to you, and they just sit there ineffectually firing at you. And so having 19 armor versus having 8 armor is a really good idea. So we've got a Mark I RF laser over here. It's a rapid fire laser. That's what RF stands for. So it's got a faster firing cycle than a lot of the other lasers in the game. It deals 2 damage. We have like an anti-aircraft laser right now, or an AA laser. Oh no, it's an armor laser. That's what it is, anti-armor laser. Okay, so it strips armor. So we're going to want to scrap this laser and keep the one that we already have. And then we're just going to take a brief look around for any other boxes that we missed. I see sparkles over here. What are these sparkles? Let's have a look. What have you got for me over here? Anything nice? It is a FST cannon, which I'm guessing stands for fast cannon because this guy has enormous velocity, which will make this a lot easier to track with. However, the firing delay on it is considerable, being 7.5 seconds per shot, whereas 3 seconds per shot's a lot more manageable. I'm just going to scrap it for a little bit of extra cash. But I do recommend you kind of like look around and see what you can add onto your ship in this game when you first get onto the map. So for example, there's a sensor right there. I would like that sensor to be mine. So let's pull around the outside and see if we can snatch this thing real fast before we get into some of that old shoot 'em up bang bang gangster shit. You know how we like to do it in space. We're a privateer, so I'm ready to unleash the 8-pounders on people. We've got a bespoke sensor over here that gives us the polymath skill, so the more polymath stuff we have, the better off we'll be. This right here has an EMP pulse, which will knock out the enemy's ability to move for a solid 6 seconds. I'm just going to scrap it. Having extra scrap just feels more valuable to me for right now, because the more you repair your ship, the more expensive it gets, thus tying back into the risk-reward, like how far can I take this run type deal that's going on. We've got 2 ships down there. We've got a big cluster of nasties down there. Am I about to hit that rock? I would prefer not to crash into rocks right now. There's also an M right there, which is a mission target. If you complete the bounty that's on the map, you should get paid. These are color coordinated, so like cooler colors are easier enemies, darker colors, warmer colors are harder enemies. So I think these 2 down here are probably going to be the best thing for us to pick right now. We kind of want to pick off lonely enemies while we're weak and we don't have a lot of equipment. There is a lot of money floating around and stuff like that out here, but since this is a first impressions video, I don't want to spend too much time dad gaming around just picking up space flotsam. But that is a major part of this game. This is a very low-key game by comparison to a lot of other stuff that's out there on the market. You do have a cruise mode in this game. It'll essentially double your velocity so that you can get around the map faster. It's a slip drive like we've seen in a million other sci-fi games before. Let's pull up towards this guy right here. And once we get close enough, are we going to burst both these bubbles when we get in here? Pull towards the outside of his bubble so that we don't get that one. We're in kind of a fragile ship right now, so I would rather not get myself into like a 2v1 type situation if I can help it. All right, buddy, we're diving in on him right now. Let's lower our velocity. There is an inverse relationship with sort of like a maximized agility in the middle of your throttle settings. And so let me turn towards him. I don't think we have him on sensors just yet. We got to wait for it. There we go. Now we got him on sensors because he's inside of a kilometer. Once we get a little bit closer, our optimal ranges are our cannon can fire at 430 and our laser fires at 155. So we're going to need to get a little bit closer before we can find purchase on this guy. I do have a shield restorer. Hopefully that works on my ship. It's built for fleets, but let me see what I can do here. Okay, fire the cannon at him for sure. And once we get a little bit closer, so at 155, we can hit him with the laser. I'm going to do my best to dodge his fire, because you can do that in this game. Like, all bullets in this game have presence in the physical universe. And then we'll just kind of bring it around on this dude, I think. Shields are getting shredded a little bit, but let me get a little bit more agility here, because I think, ooh, he's actually eating my armor pretty good. Okay, I wasn't expecting him to be able to get through 19 armor, but he's getting through it. On the plus side, we just splashed him, so that's going to be a little bit of cash added to our stash. I'm going to wait for my shields to come back up. We are going to be taking hull damage from here on out, so I'm going to go ahead and repair everything. Where's that other craft at? He's closing with us right now. From right there. Okay. Let's bring her around and bring me back behind my craft. And we are under fire, my friends. Let's go ahead and lock all weapons. Begin firing. We're going to accelerate laterally to try to avoid some fire. I don't know if it's going to work out. We're just going to kind of strafe him a little bit so that the shields stay up, but he does have us outranged right now, which could potentially be a problem. I think our cannon is still making connections with him. Let's bring her back around. We're going to kill the throttle, increase our agility to come back for another drive-by. It does look to me like we have a little bit of a range advantage on this dude. So let's just keep it nice and tight. One thing I would like to see added to this game is once you get close to the enemy, I would like to see EVE Online style controls. That's the same thing that kept coming back to me the entire time that I was playing it, is I was like, man, dude, if this game had EVE Online controls where I could just click on targets and tell them to orbit, or tell them to follow, or tell them to chase, poof, that'd be all kinds of good. So I think that would be a really good addition to this title. It would also tie in the EVE Online players, because their basic controls are essentially EVE Online controls. If you could only use point and click in EVE Online, you couldn't actually lock onto a target and then tell it to approach or keep at range or orbit. I hope they add that on in. But the enemy got splashed, and it looks like he dropped a Mark II cannon. That's pretty sick. I actually like that. It's got decent armor stripping. I think it's probably better. The firing delay is kind of long on it, but it does put a stacking damage over time effect on the enemy that may be a little bit more effective than what we've got going on right now. It does also solidly increase our range. So yeah, I'll swap out my laser for the cannon. The explosion did eat off a little bit of our armor right there, but I think it's manageable. Like, I think we can stay in the cockpit for a little while longer. Let's get a larger situational view of what's going on here. We don't want to tangle with him yet until we're fully, like, set up with gear and things that'll make us a tad more resilient. These guys in this bubble over here are also kind of a problem. And so if we are going to tangle with anybody, fly that way. What does the vault do? I've never seen a vault before. What does a vault do? My hope is that when I interact with this thing, it doesn't set off some giant zone-wide alarm like I'm a bank robber and call everything to me. I have a sneaking suspicion that that may be what happens here. Or maybe it's a way for me to send gear back to base so that I can start out with it or something. I don't know. Let's cut the cruise drive as we get closer to this thing because I don't know what it's going to do. And I would like to have weapons online when I get near it. What does this thing actually accomplish? Yeah, something just warped in. I don't know what just warped in, but something warped in. Yeah, that's probably bad. Are they terrifying? I believe that this guy just shot me. Why you shooting me, bro? Why's it gotta be like that? Don't make me activate the blickies on you, man. I'll put the heaters on you. I'll give it to you, bro. I will bring this thing. I will bring pain to your mama. Look at you right now. Look how dead you are. You are unfortunately super dead. Oh, that one's on me too. We're going to have to fight him as well. All right, well, unleash the cannons. Let him feel the force. I'm going to restore my shield real quick. Unleash the force of our villainy. Space piracy. Down he goes. We killed that one off too. All right, is there a third one? There is a third one. So I think it might be a decent idea to flip around. And let's just move towards him. And let's see if we can get him locked. And he's in range fire. Also pull sideways, though. Like, our cannons seem to be the best at being accurate when we're doing, like, flybys. So that's another target down. We've already made a little bit of money, and we're sitting on 1,000 scrap right now, which isn't so bad. We do have other targets over there, but my worry is they're both going to pull in simultaneously. Like, look how much bigger his sensor signal is, dude. Like, he's definitely scarier than we are, which makes me feel nervous. One of our mission targets does appear to be a little bit closer, though. So let's flip around real fast. I'm going to give it some gas, and then we're going to hit the cruise mode and see if we can get over there rapidly to mess with these dudes. So he is a red target. He may be way too tough for us. Time will tell. We may get instantly obliterated by this dude, or we may actually do okay. It seems to kind of be up in the air. It's kind of hard to determine a lot of times in this game. You don't really know with your enemies until you exchange shots with them a couple times, at which point you've got to make a hard call whether or not you want to bail and get the hell out of here. But I am pulling up on him right now, so we're locked in. I mean, I have to kill him for the bounty that's on this map so that we can get a bunch of credits. Chances are, because he's a harder enemy, he'll probably drop better loot too. Let's go ahead and kill the engines ever so slightly to give us a little bit more agility, and we'll just see how his opening shots go. Okay, opening shots whiffed. All weapons fire. Oh, we shredded him. Oh, he shredded me though too. Okay, all right, we're going to have to be careful about this one. I don't know how many of those hits that we can take. Give me my shield back and my armor back real fast. Oh, it hurts so much. Well, we got him. Not without cost, but the good news is when you take down the big tough enemies, you get metagame currency. You can see how hard he chunked us right there. He chunked us real hard. I'm going to repair up real fast, but we got 2 energy cells, which means we can unlock something when we get out of here, which will be good, whether it be like better starting shields or better starting armor. We've got one more target that we have to take down if we are at all interested in getting this bounty. I'm going to swing in on him kind of wide. And that's him right there. You've no doubt noticed all the red contrails, though. It's going to be a problem if we end up fighting more of these guys than one at a time. And so I'll bring him in right here, but I'm very interested in just sort of looping around him and not pulling the other mobs once he gets into range. We good? Fire. Dodge his first salvo. There we go. He dodged our first salvo as well. He's not hitting crazy hard right now, but he's hitting hard enough. Restore the shields. Stay on him. Come on. Oh, you gotta track him, bro. You gotta track him. You gotta make the shot. Slow the ship down ever so slightly so that I have a bit more agility to fool with. We've got him slightly outranged now. Pull her back around. There we go. Hey, 2,000 credits awarded. 100% will take that. That's good stuff right there. Now the real question is, what else can we handle around here that isn't going to be a mess? I think we can handle this guy, so let's set a course for him. All right, slow down the engines so that we can get targeting going. All weapons fire. Hey, big impact on the first shot. Swerve out of the way of that. Maybe accelerate ever so slightly. Might be a good idea. And then we can slow down again. And then we're going to want to come about. Ooh, splashed him from so far away. You love to see it. That mean little snipey shot we got like right on the back end right there. I'm starting to make some serious damage on this cloud. I'm curious, is that a cruiser right there, though? It's hard to tell. I think he's definitely a larger signal than we are. Let's get his 2 escorts over here real fast before we do anything else. No, come in wide. Don't burst his sensor bubble. I'm going to go after this top one first. One thing I do think that this game does exceptionally well is that the soundtrack in this game is an absolute Dune-style bopper. Like the sounds of echoing calls to prayer rhythmically with like EDM behind them, and then almost like a Sardaukar vibe. Really, really works for this game. It really amplifies the loneliness of the setting and how you're just in the middle of nowhere fighting as hard as you can against people that all want you dead. Let's dive on him real quick. Okay. Have we landed anything on this guy? There you go. Get him with the cannon, man. Get him with the both cannons. This guy's really weak against shields. He can't get through our shield for nothing. Good. That's what I'm glad to see. There is drone warfare in this game. I haven't done it yet. I would like to do it at some point, but I don't have a drone ship unlocked just yet. I've heard from the Steam reviews and whatnot that the drone combat is actually pretty interesting in this title, but I haven't got to play around with it. We've got a medium difficulty target right there, and we've got an easier target straight ahead. So let's get the easier target down here. It's moving a little bit slower. You can tell from the arcs of how some things fly, whether they're like a big signature or a little signature, and I'm worried that right now I'm kind of like bucking up on something that's out of my weight class. You sort of have to play your ships in this game like what they are. Like, you can't expect a Corvette, you know, to actually duke it out with a cruiser. But you can kind of outmaneuver a cruiser. Turn her in. All right, come around that way. Dodge that first salvo. Restore shields. There you go. Get him with it. I believe in you, cannons. I believe in you. You missed? Okay, you didn't miss with that one. There we go. And then the dot got him. I'm glad I took that fire dot gun, dude. That fire dot gun. He wouldn't have died right there if it wasn't for that. He would have been sitting on like 4% HP. Do we take on the orange target? Ooh, something dropped. What is that? hold on, is that credits? I like money. Give me money! That's the whole reason we're out here. Be careful when rotating your camera around and whatnot, too, when you're flying. It's 133 credits. Your camera controls will reverse on you if you're, like, trying to fly backwards. There's just a number of weird little idiosyncrasies. Like I said, the control system with this game, that's really the thing that you're going to have to learn to conquer. And once you learn all the weird little idiosyncrasies and preferences of, like, the camera and the way your ship moves, then the game is actually a really pleasing experience. But I can virtually guarantee you, your first 2 hours with this game are going to be you going, why the hell did that just do that? Why is the camera doing that? Why is my ship doing that? And then you go into the options and you start fiddling with sensitivities. You start fiddling with inversions. You start fiddling with camera modes. Eventually, you will find the way to make it work. But this is one of those games that has like an initial learning cost to just the way everything, because it all works so much differently than every other space game out there. How big are you? Oh, I got a bad feeling, man. He's moving awfully slow. But because he's slow, oh, he's not that tough. Never mind, forget this guy, dude. Sitting here psyching myself out, and this guy's not even that bad. What did he drop, an ACR cannon? Oh, we got plasteel off of that guy too. Nice, dude. I took the new cannon because I like the idea of being more accurate than I am. It seems like the tracking score on your gun, like this game doesn't tell you what any of the stats do. None of it is tooltip. You've just got to kind of feel it out and learn it on your own. But there's another one down there that we could positively splash maybe. There's some loot and stuff over here though. Let's go get that signature right there. Let's go get him, and then we'll decide if we want to go after the red target. Red targets you kind of have to be geared for though. Oof, that place up there has so much loot, but there's so many bad guys all around it. You gotta really want that thing. I bet if we brought the cruiser, I could slug it out with all those littler ships, maybe? But it's kind of hard to say. Either way, let's stick to our main target for right now, and we'll deal with them a little bit later. I don't even know if we're going to full clear this zone. But that's what I like about this game, is that, like, I expected when I first started playing it and I got the gist of how the gameplay flows, I was expecting the game to have, like, a time limit for how long you're allowed to stay on each map before Everspace style you kind of get jumped in on by the Okar that are undefeatable. Not the case in this game. You are free to kind of just hit your objectives and do what you want at your own pace, which I will say is pretty refreshing. Like, a lot of games like to put time limits on you nowadays in order to ramp up that risk-reward feel, but I like the way that this game doesn't pressure you. Like, this can really actually almost be a cozy dad game space simulator if you want it to be, or it can be about as intense as you want it to be depending on what combats you choose to thrust yourself on into. And as soon as we get a sensor trace off this guy, I'm going to cut the warp engine. We should be getting kind of close right now. You can see we have a mini map down there. It's not really going to be crazy legible to an end video because it's going to be really small on YouTube, but I can see it, and it looks like our bubbles are definitely intersecting now. Kill the cruise engine, cut the engines. All right. The second we're in range, give me advanced control. Weapons are disabled during cruise, which is kind of ass. Yeah, I jumped out too early. Okay, turn, come back around, fire all weapons, get a lock. I think we can slug it out with this guy. It doesn't look like he's making much progress on our shields. Yeah, he got them cotton ball guns, man. He's not built like we're built. We're built for war out here. Get a little bit more range on him, please. We have the range advantage right now, so, like, I'm cool with just outranging him and pelting him from further away than he can shoot us. And there's a definite skill component to actually, like, targeting and fighting in this game. There really sincerely is. Bring it back in. What are the ranges on my weapons again? 370? Okay. We can hit him with our... Yeah! We got him with the sniper cannon right there. Hell yeah, brother. He didn't really drop anything, which kind of sucks. But... we do have a few loot salvage spots back over this way, the direction that the ship is facing right now. You can barely see them. They're like little specks on radar. One thing I think they should do is they should move from the text-based iconography that they have right now, and everything in space should just have a shape. And so loot would be a square. You click on the square, and over here there's a little pop-up that goes zoop zoop, and then it tells you what's over there. Oh, it's a sensor. Estimated quality whatever. And then that's going to depend on your sensor rating, whether or not you can properly appraise how good that piece of equipment is. I just don't know if I'm going to go for that down there, dude. There's so many of them on that point that if I'm not one-shotting, I just don't see how we walk that off. But then again, I'm not that experienced with the game either. I've only played for like an hour or two. Pulling up on our quarry here, it appears to be a laser of some kind. It might be better than what we have. Lasers are kind of point-blank weapons in this game. You can't really fire them from super far away. And so they do sort of benefit the nature of our vehicle is that we're fast and we're built for hit and runs. Cut the cruise drive. All right, bring her down. And then turn on the tractor beam. It's a Mark II laser. Okay. Reel it in. And with a Mark II laser, it looks like we've got 2 damage per shot. It fires every second. It's got a range of 165. And it does put a fire debuff on the enemy. However, we're going to lose a lot of armor stripping if we take it. I'll probably just scrap it for resources for right now. And then there is a shield over on this side that we can pick up from the debris field that I think might be useful for us. I'm not crazy enamored with the shield that we currently have. Like, I do like the fact that it can heal itself. So it's like a self-regenerating shield every 30 seconds. But the other half of that is it is actively nerfing our shield strength right now. It's giving us a little bit of armor, though, I suppose. An ST Bespoke Healing Shield. All right, reel her in. Oh, it's a Mark III. That's very nice. All right, so what does this do? We get 1 hull, we get 1 extra shield, our sensor strength goes down, but it lowers our signature by 9, which means that we're going to be a lot harder to detect by the enemy. It looks like it can restore its own shield points, just like the one that we currently have, which is pretty good. And it comes with a set bonus called Alchemist. If we have Alchemist 2, we get something called Double Entropy. If we have Alchemist 4, our lasers get 33% damage. At 5, we get even more laser damage. I will install that one, actually. Yeah. We do have one little lonely elite target over there. I kind of want to go for him. Dare I? Yeah, let's go for him. Just move the ship around, and let's see if we can go get him. And I'll probably cut cruise around the time our 2 signature bubbles intersect. So, like, right now, cut it. Okay, and then we'll go back to manual control mode. Back on advanced control. Let's see what we can do here with this guy. Hopefully he doesn't turn into too much of a mess. He's not even a kilometer away yet, and he looks pretty big. Oh, my tractor beam's on. That's what went wrong. God, you see what I told you just a minute ago? If your tractor beam's on, you can't target enemies in any sense. And so, like, always make sure your tractor beam's good to go. I sometimes wish that it would, like, automatically pop off whenever I come into combat, but that's not the way that it works. We got to come around on this guy. We are landing shots on him, though. Like, he's pretty considerably hurt before we're even near him. That's a hit. Yeah, down he goes. Another enemy has been sent. Ooh, what do you have? What's the purpley wurplies? You got an energy cell for me? Tractor beam. Bring that thing in. Yeah, give me that energy cell. I like metagame currency. So when you feel like you're done splashing around inside the sandbox, you can either extract, which takes you back to Cathridge, and you can unlock upgrades or whatever else, or you can warp, and you can go to a different spot to fight more enemies further and further on outside the ring. I haven't fought the Tyrians yet, so I think we'll jump in on them real quick. When I was 15 years old, dude, that was my go-to D&D character name, was Tyrion. That's what I changed it around as I got older. But you know, I feel like you have like a name that you get really attached to when you're like at certain ages when you play like D&D or video games or whatever else. Tyrion was the name that I used for just about everything when I was that age. Let's get a quick sensor scan, see what's going on. We got a real thick bubble over there. We've got a yellow contact over on that side. Something's happening down there. The hell was that noise? Open vaults? Where's the vault at? I don't even see a vault. What is that very large bubble that's headed towards me? What does that mean? Uh-oh. Maybe accelerate? I can't decide. I think they must have an installation. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so it's an installation that's pinging the system for targets. It's meaning that you can't sneak up on them stealthy, even if you wanted to. We do have one contact on radar right now, though. So I would suggest maybe bring that around just so we're facing him. And we'll make the old public effort to try to blast this guy because I don't like it when I see enemy hulls inside my eye line. That all done and dusted, though, closing thoughts about Cathridge, having now played for, I don't know, let me look at my Steam dashboard. 3 hours is how long I've spent inside of the game. And I will say on the front end, the more I play it, the more I like it. This is not a game that gives a strong first impression, but once you actually get into the thick of it and understand the systems, it's actually a really logical, well-designed game. I really like it. I think it's a cool game that sort of kneecaps itself by being willfully weird, but the willful weirdness is also what made me like it. It's what made it grow on me. And so I don't think the game would be the same experience without all the weirdness and odd choices inside of it. I think on a foundational gameplay level, it's a good game that manages to straddle the line between EVE Online, Diablo, and Nebulous. It's a game about just smashing big ships into each other for hours at a time looking for the next big upgrade and the next big explosion. The metagame progression, it seems to be pretty rewarding, and I like the weird esoteric ways that the metagame unfolds, sort of emergently, I suppose. Those are good things. They draw you into the universe. Sound effects wise, I think the game sounds like what it looks like. It's a minimalist game, but they actually managed to get some pretty solid sound effects in here for a minimalist game. I do think there needs to be more crunchy analog sounds, though, of like firing and adjusting the engines, where you can sort of hear pistons turning over and you can hear pieces of metal sort of screeching past one another as you pick up and lower velocity, the creaking of the hull. Loot variety, I think, is actually the biggest draw for this game. The loot itself is weird, just as weird as the game, meaning that you can luck into some absolutely incredibly rolled run-defining items once you're familiar enough with the game to know what to look for and you're not overwhelmed by the stat screen anymore. There's a lot of things that can make your ship perform in very odd and useful ways. There's also a big selection of ships in this game. Like metagame-wise, there are a lot of ships for the player to choose from and unlock as you get further on into the title. And then, of course, it's got the fleet-building element where you can bring ships in with you once you get further on into the game so that you've got backup and you've got wingmates. Really, the main thing that hamstrings this game is just the control style. It's not bad, but it's not good either. It takes some definite time to get used to it. You've got to put in the time with this game because to play optimally, you need to learn and understand both the advanced flight stick and the modern flight stick, because I found that the game plays best when you're actively hot swapping between the two based on situations that you now recognize visually. There are certain means of piloting that are better for certain engagements, and if you can effortlessly swap between those two modes for what you're trying to do, the game gets infinitely easier. But it took me about 50 minutes of flying around the game before I felt like I bare level understood what was happening and the quirks that exist inside the camera system. And then after like 2 hours was when it became second nature and muscle memory started to take over, which kind of sucks because 2 hours is the refund window on a game if you just really can't make it work. But other things that I found, the text is very fuzzy on the greater scan screen. It needs presentational love. It definitely needs like a UI overhaul and a clearer way of showing the player interactables that are on the map. I do think that the interaction system I talked about earlier, where when you're in the scan screen, everything is represented by an icon. You can click on that icon, and then a box unfolds that's like, do you want to approach? Do you want to orbit? You know, all that kind of stuff. That would be nice to have just for various situational use. But right now, there's a lot of blurry splotches and whatnot on the scan that make the game not look super great. And I think finding fonts and also an iconography that scales better to the scale of that scan over an entire system would be good. On some maps, enemies and their contrails are the exact same color as the backdrop color scheme. I found those maps to basically be impossible to discern from. I had to rely almost entirely on my targeting systems and just staring at my scans, almost like flying by instrumentation. I found that I avoided those zones and I left them as fast as possible. It may be a design decision, but I do think that even if the enemy's colors and their contrails are the same color as the system that you're in, they should be more distinct and easier to see with kind of like banding boxes that go around them once they're at like 4,000 or 5,000 meters, you know. I also feel like adding in some of Eve's basic navigational features here would be a good idea to supplement the control scheme, and definitely would ease players in a little bit better, but I already talked about that. A bare minimum, the scan over map just needs to be cleaned up in order to clear visual confusion and fuzziness in the fonts that make the game look cheap. But at its core, I think this is a very unique, very good Battlecruiser game. There's not anything else like it out there, and thus I automatically am going to feature it because every single week I'm spammed with an endless field of paint-by-numbers roguelites that are exactly the same as everything else that's out there chasing trends. And I like that there's someone out there that still has the nutties to make something they feel artistically attached to rather than something that will guaranteed sell. And Cathridge is definitely that game. This is clearly like the game that somebody wanted to make for themselves. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, it was Cathridge. Tomorrow will be something else. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all later.